This is Wisdom for the Spiritist Practitioner. We're waiting for you to join us, since this is a beautiful study session in which we're studying more and more with the illuminated minds through Chico Xavier, guidelines for the Spiritist Center and for the Spiritist Practitioner. We have been studying the book, beautiful book, Educandário de Luz. The book Educandário de Luz is on PDF in Portuguese. It's published by the Brazilian publisher Ideal Editora. In English, it's coming about as we speak. Carlos Diaz and I are working on this, and we are sharing with you the translations that have come about. You may be asking why we are specifying this study at Kardec Radio for the Spiritist Practitioner. The reason why is because the good mentors of the Kardec Radio, they have said that we have had enough sessions for the general public throughout many books. Almost a year we've been daily with you. But this time we needed to instrument, empower those who are with us and are willing to share the Spiritist teachings and to be a Spiritist practitioner, talking to spirits, rescuing entities, reaching out to those who don't know what to do, etc. So there are many reasons, from those who teach to children to those who actually are helping in the outreach programs. We are Spiritists, and it's a unique task force. It's very specialized, very unique, number one, because of the teachings, the principles, the set of principles that are the foundation of the Spiritist Practitioner is unique. The second one that makes the group of Spiritist practitioners unique is because we're all volunteers. We don't charge for any money. And it's not a given, because in this world it's very rare that we find this type of thing. People are always doing something to get an award or something, but Spiritist practitioners don't. And not for fame, for anything. And third, because it's founded in the Christian teachings, the Christ consciousness, so it demands from us more and more and more to be given, and to be pure in the heart, in our intentions, and never ever repeat the mistakes in the past when we were in other religions. This book, Educandário de Luz, talks about the Spiritist Center being an educational institute of light. We started this study with Dr. Bezerra de Menezes in the preface, titling, as he says, each Spiritist Center is for us a Lyceum of Light. On day 2, we studied chapter 2, which is a message by Brother X Humberto de Campos on the perfect group. And today, Emmanuel comes to us in 4 paragraphs, simply 4 paragraphs. He's titling the message Spiritist Groups. He's going to revisit the role, the function, and the main dynamics of this group in simple 4 paragraphs. And we're going to be discussing with you. Due to the sacred moment that we share here together in different parts of the world and forming this constructive mental current, tonight especially, we won't be able to go through all the names of everybody. I will read it later. And we will only answer to questions that you may have regarding this message, but we won't be able to read all those messages or mention all the names, because it's a sacred moment. We prepare ourselves to be here, and not that reading your name is not sacred, it is, but tonight the message needs from us more reflection, more meditation, and probably a little more silence. Okay? We're going to begin it. Spiritist Groups. Spiritist Groups need to understand, this is Emmanuel, Spiritist Groups need to understand that their apparatus cannot be analogous to that of properly human associations. We'll break it down before we move on. Spiritist groups need to understand. It's interesting because when in higher levels of post-graduation in psychology and neuroscience, we study, amongst many things, analysis of the discourse according to Lacan psychoanalysis, which is a branch of psychoanalysis. And we get to know of the meaning of the words that are used, the in-between, the lines, the silences, the pauses, the commas, etc. And here we have this word, need. The Spiritist groups need to understand. So Emmanuel, like a commander, he says, it's number one, we need to understand that our apparatus as a center is different from our organizations, other organizations. How so? A Christian Spiritist society should have, above all, the characteristic, the familiar characteristic, where love and simplicity appear in the manifestation of all feelings. Okay, you may be asking, why does Emmanuel define Christian Spiritist society? It's the first time that expression, not in this book, but it came after Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier, trademarked this expression, Christian Spiritist Center. Why? Because since Spiritism came to Brazil, it got mixed with other religions from Africa and from Europe. And people started forming centers that they called Spiritists, but are not actually Spiritists, because they do not embrace the core of it all, which is the Christ consciousness. So to make sure that we are on the same page, as a good educator, Emmanuel comes and says, we're talking here about the one that really embraces the whole 9 yards of the Spiritist doctrine according to Kardec, which inevitably encompasses the Christ consciousness, whether people understand it or not, like it or not. So we need to study what it is, because Emmanuel does not spare words. We need to understand why he's telling us that the Christian Spiritist society should have these characteristics. We're not talking about Spiritist centers that do mediumistic work simply. No. Their guidelines, the ethical, moral guidelines of a Spiritist center must rely upon the Christ conscious principles. And he says, for that reason, you see, he uses word need and should, and he says, above all, the familiar characteristic. You know, it's interesting because nowadays people don't know what family is about. I'm not judging, but we're just saying. Many people don't even know what family is all about. What is family all about? What is family all about? Good question. He's going to answer. Where love and simplicity appear in the manifestation of all feelings. Love and simplicity. What is love? It sounds like the music. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. No, it's nothing to do with that song. It's about love being the foundation of life. God, the source of all intelligence, supreme intelligence of all things, meaning love. Only those who love are truly intelligent. Today, the Harvard Business Review released an article based on scientific evidence showing that those who even practice mindfulness, if they do not boost their emotional intelligence, they are not going to be able to be mindful. And we go even further. Many studies have already proved that people who are intellectually, their IQ is very high, but if they are not emotionally managed, smart, they don't go too far. And I'm not saying too far to the point of being a rocket scientist. We're just saying far enough to be established in your pathway, not only at work, but in all the different facets of life. So here he's saying love and simplicity, and I think the second word, simplicity, is probably more challenging, because we are living in a world that thinks that the beauty resides in the complexity of things. The more difficult, the more, statically complex, we are like, oh, but actually, it's like nature. It looks simple. It is simple, but a simplicity that we are yet to grasp. He is saying that our sentence should be simple, should have love above all. And love and simplicity, in itself, there is discipline and order. Because in nature is simple in its dynamics because of its discipline and order. Anything that encompasses order and discipline becomes simple. Whenever we want to deny that discipline or order component, everything becomes so complicated, right? So he says, it appears, love and simplicity appear in the manifestation of feelings. Okay? Oops. In the manifestation of feelings. All feelings. Okay, Vanessa, rewind the tape, rewind the tape, rewind the tape. Because I know it went fuzzy. Let's go back. A Christian Spiritist society should have, above all, the familiar characteristic where love and simplicity appear in the manifestation of all feelings. Emotional intelligence again. Feelings, which feelings? All feelings. Oh, yeah. There's no room for jealousy. There is no room for animosity. There is no room for competition. And that should also be spread out to the whole Spiritist movement. Because if there is animosity, dissension, non-Christian feelings, then we are not aligned with the cause. We're not aligned with the cause. So it says all feelings should manifest love and simplicity. As easy as that. Or not. So now, since we may be puzzled, Emmanuel, in a third paragraph out of 4, he goes straight to the point. And this is the beauty of it all, because we Spiritists, we're not afraid of talking things as they are. We are transparent, sincere, straightforward, and like the Master, firm, though kind and loving and well-intentioned. He says, in a doctrinal entity, When dissensions and internal struggles arise, revealing partisanship and hostilities, it is a sign of the absence of the gospel in the hearts, showing itself by the excess of human material and presaging or foreseeing the wreck of the most generous intentions. Again, he repeats hearts. He says if we see struggles and clashes, animosity, struggles, partisanship, and that serves to the Spiritist movement too, in the world, wherever we are, local, state, national, international. If we see partisanship, hostilities, dissensions, and internal struggles, it's a sign that we have absence of the gospel in the hearts. In the hearts, why didn't Emmanuel say in the thinking process? Because we know it. The problem is we have not calibrated the heart yet. In the book Thought in Life, Emmanuel explains it. Everything begins in the feelings, emotions. Why? Because we're vibrating beings. Inevitably, we cannot refrain from feeling. You can manage the feelings, but you cannot stop feeling. You can manage the feeling, but never stop. Because feeling is emotion, is an external movement of our vibrations. What you vibrate is expressed. What I vibrate is being expressed. The only thing I can do is manage it. That's why we call it emotional management. So he says the core of it all is in emotional management, emotional intelligence. So if you and I think all along, oh yeah, we're going to study more, yeah, we may sooner or later get it, but not necessarily. I know groups of groups, even in groups that I've been to, you study, it's saying we should never stop working, ceaseless work, and people are looking forward to a vacation, to a stop, to a pause. So knowing here does not mean feeling here. Because this is going to change when we change our feelings. And I say this up and down figuratively, because physically everything's processed in the brain. And we know the brain is just a reflex, the seat of the mind, as André Louis says. And it's all in the mental body. So we need to change our way of feeling. How? By saying, oh man, I need to believe in the good of people. But Vanessa, look at this person is doing. Come on. Jesus said, people are more fragile than evil. Okay, I'm going to reset my heart and saying that person is a child of God. This person and I are destined to be friends. We're destined. And if we postpone it, it's going to be to our disadvantage. Some people tell me, oh, I'm going to give them time. Yeah, you give them time. But I tell you, you better hurry up because the hurricanes are coming up. And you don't know if you're going to have time to reconcile. And you don't know, from hurricanes to wildfires and earthquakes, only God knows what's going to come next. Terrorist attacks, whatever they are, I don't know. But who knows, tomorrow, if I discarnate dramatically, I'm going to regret, oh my gosh, I should know better. I should have known better. I should have made that call and reconcile and be sincere and stop this competition, this partisanship, etc. As Emmanuel is saying, these hostilities, when the collective suffer because of individual limitations, this is critical. This is critical. Sometimes people create partisanship because of people's personal choices. personal choices that don't even affect the Spiritist movement. Only for the Puritans, of the hypocrites. Because deep inside, Jesus never said to anybody, you cannot be my disciple because you have led XYZ life. He has never, ever, ever, ever said that. So how do we dare to be an inquisitor and stamp an X on somebody because of their personal choice? We're no longer inquisitors. That time has gone. It didn't work. It was tragic, and we better not repeat the mistake. We are here to actually do the right thing. And he says, put the gospel in the heart. What is to put the gospel in the heart? The gospel is the good news. In the heart, meaning we need to feel the good news. When you feel the good news, you see the good. You seek the good. Feel the good. Visualize the good. And mold the good with all the resources you can. So you're going to see difficulties around and in you, but you're going to look at you and everybody else with refreshed eyes daily, saying, I'm going to continue giving this person a chance because I also want a chance. Who am I to judge? No, but Vanessa, in this life, I am so pure. I've never committed a mistake or a crime. I've been married to the same person for many years, because there are spiritists who are like this. They've been married for the longest time, and they think that entitles them to put down people who have divorced, remarried, and they're just missing the boat. Because at least in the American society, majority of people have divorced and, started over in a new family. We cannot help those families if we're discriminating them, if we feel superior to them. We need to be really put the gospel in the heart. Gospel in the heart. There are people who are discriminated because they're homosexuals or transgender in the Spiritist movement. And that's shameful, because do you think Jesus would do that? They cannot give passes. They cannot give talks. That's surprising, because we have no track record that the guided model, Jesus Christ, has done it. If you're listening to this and you're shocked, don't be shocked. This is a conversation that comes from Spiritist practitioner to Spiritist practitioner, based on the teachings of the spirits. They are in 4 paragraphs, going straight to the point. There are places, as Emmanuel is saying, where there are dissensions, struggles, partisanships, and hostilities. And if we are creating those, it's because we have the absence of the gospel in our hearts. So let us do the following. I'm not reading the names today or the messages now, later, because this study is very grave. But let us put our hand here in our chest and feel the power of our affirmation. Whenever you feel the struggle, tell yourself, I feel the good news in my heart. I feel the good news in my heart. And I feel the good news in my heart. And I can seek the good in me and in everybody else. I can feel the good in me and in everybody else. I can visualize the good. Friends, dissensions are so silly. You know why? Because according to the knowledge that we have in Spiritism, sooner or later, from now to immortality, we're going to be friends. The question is, why postpone it to tomorrow? If Jesus, our guiding model, said, reconcile today and do not dare to discriminate people for anything, because we don't know our past. In this life, we point fingers to people who have XYZ sexual orientation. We point fingers thinking that we are more because people marry, remarried, have children with different partners. And who knows in a previous life what have we done? I don't know. As Jesus said, we cannot judge. And we cannot feel this pride that we are better than others just because in this life, for this life, circumstances apparently are different. But only God knows. Only God knows. So Emmanuel, in this third paragraph, he says, when there are dissensions, there is absence of the gospel in the hearts. And finally, he brings the remedy. In these nuclei of study, there will be no fulfillment without legitimate fraternity and humility. It is imperative that all comrades amongst themselves watch in goodwill and sincerity in order not to transform the excellence of their spirit